I use only two examples, hopefully to match the interests of you as instructors in the classrooms. And one more example, because I was told there's people here from teaching English as a second language, perhaps, and also some people here, I was told, who like to do distant courses, online education courses, and see. Of course, Vygotsky, again, he wasn't. I can't call Gita and ask her what Vygotsky thought about internet courses and online. Yes, that wouldn't do at all. But again, because he gave us such a powerful methodology to look at the educational processes, it is possible now what a lot of neo-Vygotskians doing. They're trying to take his theory and methodology and try to apply it to understand what's happening even with online courses. So I will use these two examples to hopefully have enough interest from the audience, and you can then ask me questions for more detailed explanation. And that's a law of cultural development, Vygotsky. This is like a very famous Vygotsky quote. He said that because we believe that things are coming to us from culture through the tools, because we believe that nothing happening from inside out, we're not born with anything because we have to still acquire cultural tools as a human being. So there is a law of cultural development. Any function in a child or human development appears twice. First, it has to be shared with someone else who already possesses the tools of the culture. So the first plane will be teaching students together, going over the problem solving, for example, and only then it becomes individual function, and only then a student can independently solve the same problem. So that's a very famous Vygotsky idea of law of cultural development. And there's a few articles I wrote about it because, again, it's amazing even in the 21st century, it's not immediately clear to a lot of educators, and when it comes to education, you have to include culture into the picture. So with Michael Cole, Michael Cole is the most famous Vygotsky in North America. He's professor of University of California in San Diego. So he's American, I'm Russian, so we write together. It's a very powerful team because he knows American education in and out, and I know Russian education. Okay, I can talk a little bit about it. Before I go to the example, just to illustrate how unusual Vygotsky theory is for North America. Vygotsky is dialectical materialist. His sources, his philosophical sources for theory were from German philosophy, Hegel, dialectical philosophy of Hegel, and Feuerbach. And because he's materialist, he always viewed the question of education and development as something which has to answer the materialistic questions about where the origin of this is. So where things are coming from. He can't just say, just because or just because I dreamt about it. It has to be some materialistic cause for education. And it's usually Vygotsky look at the development in the classrooms as this process which full of contradictions and has a lot of crises. In North America, because I'm very well aware that I'm in the progressivist educators environment, whenever I'm talking about crisis, people go like, "Ooh, we don't need Vygotsky," because it's crisis is for Russia. Yes, Natalia. We want our education to be nice, pleasant, emotionally safe with the classroom. All these things come to you as a progressivistic theory on education. So I take a little bit of time to explain that for Vygotsky, development was a spiral. He took it directly from Hegelian philosophy, and the source and the reason for development, this materialistic reason for development, comes out of resolving some sort of contradiction. In other words, if you never require your students to do any more challenging tasks than they were able to do independently, there's no reason for them to really think or strive to do something. Because they're pretty good with their old tools, they have them. It's a very comfortable situation. So the motivation for development and for learning only comes when you require them to do something which is slightly more challenging than they usually can solve themselves. And that creates this situation of the crisis in the classroom and in education. But it's a good crisis. It's a crisis which resolves the contradiction, which motivates them to learn this new tool you provide to them, and will help them to become more powerful in their thinking, in their development. But in North America, it's a hard sell. Yes, I usually have an exercise with my teacher students. I say, well, if you are to promise parents, like the mission statement for what will happen in your school, and usually say, well, I promise your students get excellent education. I'll be very attentive to individual differences, and I'll prepare them to be good citizens in society. That's a typical mission statement for North America. And then I say, so what would you do if I come to you and say, well, please bring your children to my school, and I promise to provide the best crisis possible for your children. Would you give me your children? And they say, no, we don't need crisis. But it's a philosophical notion from dialectic, and it has a total different connotation again. I'm just giving you some illustration of how not easy to understand Vygotsky, because even the words' connotations are different. To the extent that some of my colleagues, when they write about crisis, Vygotsky terms, they call it critical periods, just to tone it down, yes, just to not to scare people away, and it's okay, except the Vygotsky call it crisis.